This is a big piece.
I got 30 years ago through this experiment that I did, and by the way, what I did is I practiced that experiment for a week. Every time something grabbed my attention, I went to it, I took care of it. You know, the trash can grabbed my attention. I didn't say, oh, I'll take it down later. No. I fixed the bag, I took it downstairs. As soon as I took it downstairs, the mailbox grabbed my attention, I got the mail. I see the mail, there's a bill. I opened it up. Oh, it says it's due the 10th of next month. But there's a reason I opened it right this moment. I sit down, I write a check, I put it in the envelope, I put the stamp on it, I put the label on it, and I put it back in the mailbox.
Oh, of course, that'll only work if you had the money in the bank account right then to pay the check.
Right. And if it doesn't, you do what needs to be done, so you pay it in time. And if you still don't have the money, but you become aware of it, you pick up the phone and you say, hey, by the way, I know I got your bill, and I'm going to pay it, but I'm not able to pay the whole thing, or I can't send you anything. In other words, the completion is the key piece. And so what I'm saying is, life is looking for us.
Yes.
The things that are looking for us create the foundation of what we call presence of being, and that creates an automatic response, not a reaction, but a response, and that response describes responsibility. It describes a completion. And so what happens is, that's the way my life works all day long. I wake up in the morning, and whatever grabs my awareness, that's where I'm at. What's really interesting is I'm extremely busy. I get a lot of emails, I get a lot of phone calls, there's a lot of things to do, but it's rare that things are not done. It's not a desk filled with all kinds of things. And so for me, and this may not be for everyone,
right,
but for me, this process has become my life's meditation. And so rather than the words being the message, as Gandhi said, my life is my message.
Well, I've become aware of this since we spoke a couple days ago, and I like it. You know, I like having the perception that life is guiding me by what my next perception is.
Yeah.
Instead of me thinking it, it's what comes into my awareness. I actually found it to be very relaxing.
Yeah.
To live that way. It's like there isn't so much resistance. It's like, oh, okay. It's saying okay.
Yeah.
There is something else that you brought up that I think is significant, and that had to do with, you mentioned in the last few minutes, falling in love. And you know, I don't know how personal you want to get or not get, but there's another piece that you brought up that I think is significant for a lot of people, that has to do with that it's not always the falling in love, it's maybe recognizing the love that's coming to us.
Yeah.
Do you want to expand on that? Because I see a lot of people, that's a big deal.
Yeah. So often we identify with how we feel about the relationship. Am I in love with them? And my entire life, as I shared with you, I might go out with someone, but unless I had a really strong feeling, unless I felt in love with them, I didn't stick around. If it wasn't it, I went to the next thing. And I thought of myself as a train that was moving somewhere, rather than sticking around. For me was like a train going in circles. And that's the way it was most of my life. And yet, those relationships lasted for a period of time, and then they completed. And what's happening in my life right now is that I realize that in those relationships, because the entire focus was how I felt, was I in love, is I always had the feeling that I was the one loving, I was the one that was more in love. And so it made me feel sometimes like, geez, I felt almost unloved. And what I've come to realize is, what I've wanted my whole life is the feeling of being loved. And so what's happening in my life now is something has shifted for me recently. and recognizing how wonderful it is to feel loved.
Yeah.
Rather than the whole focus is, well, how do I feel about them? Just to allow myself to be bathed in someone else's unconditional love of me.
Yeah.
And recognize, as my daughter Gina said, whatever's supposed to be in your life will come and it will stay. And whatever's not supposed to be in your life may come and then go. Mm-hmm. So I have nothing to do with that. As much as I tried to make prior relationships last, they only lasted as long as they lasted.
Yeah.
So for me, there's something that I'm really learning about the power of love. Not just my own love going out, but also the power of someone else's love in my life. And that has been incredibly powerful for me.
Yeah, yeah. Transformational. You were talking, there was, I can't remember what it's called, resonance?
Resonance, yes.
Resonance.
Yeah, yeah.
What's that about, and the healing power of resonance?
Yeah.
And that's why, one of the reasons why relationships are so important and transformative in our lives.
Yeah. You know, we meet with certain people, and all of a sudden we find ourselves feeling like we've known them for a really long time, and yet we've just met them. Now, there's other people we meet that we could spend days on end talking to them, and we wouldn't have that feeling. And so I've come to recognize why that expression is, birds of a feather flock together. I notice that I'm sitting with someone, and there's a certain comfort level. It's almost like we are the same kind of tree. There's some recognition, some familiarity that is recognized, but you don't know what it is. And yet, in their presence, your whole system begins to relax. Like you're in a deep meditation, except your eyes are open and you're in the midst of life. And it doesn't make a difference if you are in love with them. There's something that is like love that is being shared that is incredibly nourishing. And what I've come to realize is that mammals have certain characteristics, whether it is you're relating with another human being or with your dog or with your cat, is that when you have that connection, it happens because the emotional parts of the brain, the limbic brain, are literally vibrating at a similar rate. So we're drawn together, the birds of a feather, because we have some similar makeup, and when we connect, we're in a state of resonance. It's almost like each of us are holding the same tuning forks, and when one says something and their tuning fork begins to vibrate, the other one's tuning fork starts to resonate at the same time, and it gives us a feeling of familiarity. And what I've realized is that that limbic resonance actually has a physiologically balancing effect. It actually begins to create changes in your physiology. And what I've come to realize is that most of us think that our bodies are self-regulating, that everything in this body regulates itself, but it's not true. A big part of our physiology is actually regulated through our relationships. Many of our immune functions are regulated through our relationships. And with some people who we feel right at home with, we go into a nice state of relaxation. Our blood pressure drops, our heart rate slows, our pulse rate slows, our muscles lose their tension. Sometimes we have that after a long day's work and we come home to our sweethearts and something just relaxes, or with a very close friend or someone we just met. Well, the reason we feel that way is because when we have limbic resonance, the limbic resonance over time leads to a limbic regulation. We literally regulate each other's physiology just through our relationship. And so we spend time together and we feel somewhat healed. We feel heard. We feel seen. We feel understood. Everything that nourishes the heart and the body occurs over time of having relationships where there's resonance and where we are regulating each other's physiology, over time, our whole system transforms. We have a limbic transformation. Our understanding of love, our understanding of unconditionality, our understanding of presence, our understanding of everything that is essential to our humanity, we seem to know it by heart.